Brace, and it comes back slow, which makes it feel a lot more challenging trying to keep your lip down.
I'm just physically forcing it. You can't, it's impossible, it's just not. There's nothing you can do.
Formula One cars aren't the most extreme machines in motorsport, the drivers are. At over 300 kilometers an hour under forces that would overwhelm, and in some cases injure the average human body, these drivers are operating far beyond normal biological limits. From resisting fighter jet level G-forces to maintaining precision while their vision, muscles and brain are under constant assault. Formula One drivers aren't just skilled, they are physiologically exceptional. Today we're breaking down the 5 key attributes that make Formula One drivers some of the most superhuman athletes on the planet. Watching from the outside, Formula One doesn't look physically demanding. The drivers are seated. The car does the work. But that assumption collapses the moment you understand what the human body is being asked to endure. A Formula One race lasts close to 2 hours. For much of that time, a driver's heart rate sits between 170 and 190 beats per minute, a level typically associated with elite endurance athletes operating near race intensity. Except here, that strain isn't continuous or predictable. It spikes under heavy braking. It surges through high-speed corners. It stays elevated lap after lap with no opportunity for recovery. Inside the cockpit, temperatures regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius. The driver is sealed inside layers of fireproof material, surrounded by hot engine components, with limited airflow and no way to actively cool the body. Over the course of a race, drivers can lose 2 to 3 kilograms of body weight through dehydration alone. Even a 2% loss in body fluid is enough to measurably impair reaction time, visual acuity, and decision-making. In everyday life, that might mean a slower response. In Formula One, it means braking a fraction too late, missing a reference point, or making a correction that arrives a moment too slowly. This is why Formula One drivers train like elite endurance athletes. Their cardiovascular systems must be efficient enough to regulate temperature, deliver oxygen under constant load, and resist the creeping effects of fatigue. Without that aerobic foundation, performance degrades rapidly, and when performance degrades, concentration goes with it. In most sports, a lapse in concentration costs a point or a position. In Formula One, it can end a race or a career. Endurance keeps a Formula One driver functioning, but it does nothing to prepare the body for the forces actively trying to tear it apart. Through high-speed corners, Formula One drivers routinely experience lateral forces of 5 to 6 times their body weight. Under heavy braking, those forces shift violently forward. In sudden direction changes, they arrive from multiple angles at once. For the head and neck alone, this can mean resisting the equivalent of 25 to 30 kilograms, pulling in unpredictable directions, not once, but hundreds of times over the course of a race. The average human neck simply isn't built for this. Under sustained G-force, the head is pulled offline, vision destabilizes, and the brain struggles to maintain spatial awareness. In a Formula One car traveling at over 300 kilometers an hour, that breakdown doesn't need seconds, it needs milliseconds. To survive it, Formula One drivers develop extraordinary neck strength and neuromuscular control. This isn't about building bulky muscle, it's about training the neck to generate force instantly in any direction while under fatigue and cognitive load. Drivers use weighted helmets, resistance harnesses, and elastic systems that apply force unpredictably, simulating the way G-loads spike, fade, and reverse through different corners. The muscles must respond reflexively without conscious effort. During high-speed cornering, the driver's head must remain stable enough for the eyes to stay locked on braking points, apexes, and exit references. If the head moves, the eyes lose precision. If the eyes lose precision, the brain loses accuracy. At these speeds, blurred vision isn't uncomfortable, it's dangerous. In extreme crashes, recorded forces have exceeded 40 G, levels comparable to fighter jet ejections. The only thing preventing catastrophic injury in many of these moments is the driver's ability to control their head and neck under load. And as the race wears on, fatigue magnifies the threat. Muscles weaken, stabilization degrades, and the same forces that were manageable early in the race become progressively harder to control. This is why neck strength isn't about comfort or conditioning. It's about maintaining control when the physics of the car are operating well beyond what the human body evolved to withstand. Strength keeps a Formula One driver intact, but it doesn't help if the brain can't process what's happening fast enough. At racing speed, a Formula One driver is absorbing, filtering, and acting on enormous amounts of information every second. Track position, brake markers, tire grip, engine behavior, the movement of other cars. Reaction time at this level is measured in milliseconds. Elite Formula One drivers routinely respond in around 0.2 of a second, faster than the average human can consciously register a visual stimulus. That difference matters. At 300 kilometers an hour, a delay of just 200 milliseconds translates to traveling several extra meters before a braking input begins. In a narrow braking zone, that margin disappears instantly. But raw reaction speed is only part of the challenge. Drivers must also make complex decisions under load, choosing lines, managing tire life, anticipating opponents, all while their body is being subjected to extreme heat, vibration, and G-forces. This creates a unique cognitive burden. The brain is being asked to perform high-level decision-making while its normal sensory and physiological stability is constantly being disrupted. To cope, Formula One drivers develop exceptional neural efficiency. They learn to filter out irrelevant stimuli, automate motor responses, and rely on deeply ingrained patterns rather than conscious thought. In effect, much of their driving happens below awareness. Inputs are executed before the brain has time to verbalize them. This is why fatigue is so dangerous in Formula One. As mental resources degrade, reaction times lengthen, decision quality drops, and the margin for error vanishes. At these speeds, thinking too slowly isn't just inefficient, it's terminal. Reaction speed matters in Formula One, but by the time a driver is reacting to a loss of grip, it's already too late. At racing speed, there is no margin for correction once a tire lets go. The forces involved escalate faster than conscious thought can intervene. Instead, elite drivers operate on anticipation, sensing changes in grip before they become visible or audible. This awareness comes from a complex fusion of sensory inputs: subtle vibrations through the steering wheel, micro changes in resistance through the pedals, the way the car loads and unloads through a corner, even the tone and frequency of sound transmitted through the chassis. To an untrained body, these signals are noise. To a Formula One driver, they form a continuous stream of information about how close the car is to the limit of adhesion. As tires degrade over a race, that limit shifts. Grip falls away gradually, then suddenly. Drivers adjust braking pressure, steering input, and throttle application in millimeter-scale increments to stay as close to that changing edge as possible. This is why tire management isn't passive. Drivers are constantly monitoring feel, unconsciously calculating how much grip remains and how much can be spent without triggering a loss of control. In variable conditions, changing track temperatures, evolving rubber levels, or light rain, that sensory burden increases dramatically. Grip can change corner by corner, lap by lap. The best drivers adapt instantly. They don't wait for the car to slide, they prevent the slide from ever happening. Miss those signals and the consequence isn't just a slower lap time, it's an unrecoverable mistake at triple-digit speeds. Every physical and cognitive advantage a Formula One driver possesses exists for one reason: to function under risk. Because none of what they do happens in isolation. Endurance, strength, reaction speed, sensory awareness, all of it is tested simultaneously while surrounded by other drivers operating at the same limits. At racing speed, drivers make decisions knowing that the margin for error is effectively zero, braking a fraction too late, turning in with a touch too much commitment. trusting grip that may or may not still be there. These decisions aren't reckless, they're calculated. But calculation becomes exponentially harder as fatigue sets in. Heat stress accumulates, muscles weaken, reaction times stretch, cognitive clarity begins to fade, and yet the demands don't ease, they intensify. This is the phase of the race where the danger peaks. Not because the drivers are pushing harder, but because the body and brain are working harder just to maintain the same level of control. A minor lapse in concentration, something imperceptible from the outside, can be enough to trigger a loss of control at over 300 kilometers an hour. In most sports, fatigue leads to slower performance. In Formula One, fatigue leads to exposure. Exposure to forces the body is barely containing. Exposure to mistakes that can't be corrected. Exposure to consequences that arrive faster than thought. This is why Formula One drivers don't just need talent. They need the ability to repeatedly place themselves at the edge of human capability and stay there while knowing that failure doesn't come with a warning. The machines will keep getting faster, the forces will keep increasing, and the margin for error will keep shrinking. Which raises a question Formula One never really answers: how much further can the human body be pushed before it's no longer the limiting factor?